Peaceful Sabbath to everybody. Just letting the beat play for a second. Don't even worry about if I own the rights to this, because we're going to talk Bible. Appreciate you letting me into your evening. I ain't going to take up too much of your time. I am O-Dot, the locksmith. They call me that because knowledge is the key. Peaceful Sabbath. Hope everybody's at peace.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about some things. I left my script, but I got a plan B, so it's all good. We're going to talk about food and the people of God. I mean, that's the name of the series. This should be episode 5. Yeah, we're going to talk about food versus drugs. Getting high on food. But I see it's real provocative, the title, because, you know, these some times that we living in. So one more time, or a couple more times, season 1, episode 5, food and the people of God, getting high on food. Woo. Getting high on food. How many people know what I'm talking about already? Last time you got high on some food. And don't say never. Yeah, don't say never. So I'm going to just let the beat ride. Let's see what I got going on here. Most Christians, they know to say no to illegal drugs, right? Illegal drugs, prescription drugs, they know how to dispose of them properly and don't take them, if it's not prescribed to you. But many followers of Christ get high daily and don't never realize it. And that's why I'm here today, try to expose this sinister, devious, you dig, that's against us. All right, so one more time, as everybody falls in, I am the locksmith. They call me that because knowledge is the key. And this is food and the people of God. Food versus drugs. We're going to be talking about the next week or 2 or 3. Right? And let's see. What is it again? Getting high on food. All right? As we get into it. Food versus drugs. You know, just like every episode that I ever do anywhere, I like to start with a question. And the question, well, we got 2 questions, right? We got a question for the whole series. I've been asking that question for about 5 weeks now. Peaceful Sabbath, bro. 5 weeks now I've been asking the same question. Do Jesus even care how much portions of food you eat? Do he even care? Right, but like I said, that's an old question. New question for this week. What determines whether the food that you eat is classified as a drug? What determines if the food that you eat is classified like a drug? Or as a drug, excuse me. All right. As a matter of fact, why do we even want to talk about temperance or self-control? It's not easy to be disciplined, right? We're going to read later. Titus is going to remind us that grace is the grace of God that motivates us, right? So I say that to say this. If as we go through this, if you go through the last videos, you go through the next videos, and you feel like you have to develop more self-control, I'm going to ask you to look at it in a different way. Don't try to force a disciplined behavior. Rather seek the grace of God and allow him to change your heart. All right, then it'll be easy versus trying to force discipline. I had to learn that the hard way. So boom, food for thought. You know what I'm saying? Come get a plate. Right. So now one more time, food and the people of God, getting high on food. Why would I choose a title like that? Because most of what we eat are full of drugs. All right. What you mean, locksmith? Don't play coy. You know, Exactly what I mean. Our food is full of drugs. You know, drugs like the stuff people take when they want to get high, like opioids and crack and methamphetamine, like that type of stuff, right? So one more time, the question: what determines whether the food that you eat is classified as a drug? Like I said, I left my script at my job, but it's all good. I got my plan B, and it's still on. We're going to kick it off in the book of Titus, peaceful Sabbath to everybody as they fall in. I'm going to go ahead and read from my Bible. And we're going to read about food in the Bible, in the New Testament. I guess so. And if I could find Titus, the second chapter, that's one of them little old bitty books like the pastor say. Titus chapter 2. I know it's like before James though. Dang, sure. All right, here we go. The Epistle of Titus, to Titus, chapter 2. Peace to everybody falling in. Peaceful Sabbath. I appreciate you loaning me a few minutes. I'm going to try to make it quick, right? Food and the people of God, getting high on food, right? We in Titus chapter 2, verse 1. And it says, wait a minute. If I can get to chapter 2. Okay, there you go. But speak thou the things which become sound doctrine, that the aged men be sober, grave, temperate, sound in faith, in charity, and peace. Right? So be sober. We're going to read about some sobriety stuff in a second. Right? We've been reading about that for like 4 episodes too. Right? But so far, having self-control, being temperate, that's been a theme. Right? Verse 3. The aged women, likewise, that they be in behavior as become holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things. Why? That they may teach the young women to be sober, of course, to love their husbands, to love their children, right? So the older women should have self-control so they can teach the young women holiness, don't be false accused, to teach good things, and you know what I'm saying, all the things that practice the display temperance and the wine and everything, right? What else? Verse 5, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed. Young men likewise exhort to be sober-minded, right? So the young men also now should walk around in a fog because of the meat from the 4 for 4 that they just ate for lunch. Nah. Right, verse 7. Let's say, in all things showing thyself a good pattern of works and doctrine showing uncorruptness, gravity, sincerity, sound speech that cannot be condemned, that he that is of the contrary part may be ashamed, having no evil thing to say of you. All of these, again, have to do with temperance and self-control still, right? It's going to drop down to verse 11. For the grace of God that brings salvation have appeared to all men, teaching us, denying God ungodliness and worldly lust, we should live soberly, righteously, godly in this present world, right? What a challenge it is to live soberly in this world. And I know what you all are thinking. I don't even do drugs. I don't even drink. I stay sober 100% of the time, all the time, right? So now it looked like some people had a chance to fall in. We're going to see if that's in fact true. If there's even one person in here that don't get high on food. We're going to see, right? So if you ever did any kind of illegal drugs before, you may recall some of what I'm about to read, right? Now, what I did is I went and did some field research, right? We call those interviews, right? Getting high is a pretty individual experience, right? So you might notice even with alcohol, some of these things convert over, right? And it may be other effects that I didn't mention. We're going to do some compare and contrast, all right? Compare and contrast. There go, babe. What up? All right. This also came from an article, says 7 ways to know if you're high, right? 7 ways to know if you are high. Number 1, your senses seem altered, right? Compare and contrast is what we're doing here, right? We're going to get right back to the scripts. I got 7 of them real quick, though. Your senses seem altered, right? Like if the light is a little too bright, the color is more vivid, the music is more musical or whatever, you might be high, right? And so to add to that, talking about food, maybe not the bright light, but definitely good food equal good music, equal a good time, right? I couldn't really hear you while I was hungry, but now that I eaten, what was you saying? Your senses are altered. Number 2, you feel a physical change, right? This is the most logical and obvious change or effect, right? Because, you know, if you eat them good greens, eat them good vegetables, put in your NutriBullet or something, make you feel light on your feet, make you feel full of energy, right? On the other hand, whether you active person or not, you have that burger and fries, it's going to slow you down, all the way down, and you're going to feel it, right? A few slices of that deep dish, you're going to be nodding off at your desk. That Thanksgiving type food going to have you half sleep at the game, can't barely move, pants tight, farting and burping all over the place. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Number 3, the giggles. If everything seems funny, you probably high, right? We all know that one. Jokes are definitely more funny when you're not starving to death too, huh? Anybody ever went to a comedy show while they were starving? Say something in the chat if you ever went to a comedy show while you were starving. Don't even say nothing, matter of fact. Number 4, emotional shift. If sudden difficult to define emotional shifts might signal you being high, right? And I suppose, right, you think about that. Let me say that one more time. Sudden difficult to define emotional shifts can be a sign that you high. And I suppose that's why when you have something bad news to tell somebody, you make sure you feed them first, right? When she marrying a young man that you hate, she gonna make sure she feeds you first, right? Or when you gotta tell them that you're pregnant, you're gonna feed them first, right? Or when I failed all my classes, I'm gonna make sure you serve them first, right? Bad news is always easier over your favorite food, right? Number 5, I got my numbers off here, so I'm gonna try to keep up. Number 5, confusion. Simple tasks become less simple, right? If you saw somebody that you knew was intoxicated, you know that's a sign. Simple things become less simple. Oh, try to do too much. I'm hiring directors. Anybody know a director, holler at me, right? Now, simple tasks become less simple. This happens more with unclean foods like swine and stuff like that, right? Where you get the brain fog and all that. But yo, if you ever ate a bang or beef hot links at the barbecue or something like that, some of them little Debbie snacks at the gas station, yeah, get you high, and the simple things seem confusing, for sure. Number 5, at the repast, it's always food. You ain't never lie, sis, for sure. Number 5. It's something, the Munchies. This is something that you wouldn't think would be a side effect of food, right? Because, everybody know that when people do certain kind of drugs, they get the Munchies. But who would have ever thought that you get the Munchies from food? You ever ate some Lay's potato chips? I think they from Chicago. I don't remember. I got to get me a studio audience so I can ask them again. I believe they are. But anyway, back in the day, they had the commercial. I bet you can't just eat one. They had the whole slogan. It was crazy, right? That's what it was. You can't just eat one, like it was a real thing, like it was a potato chip challenge or something like that, right? So start eating for whatever reason, and instead of satisfying you, the food made you hungrier. Anybody ever ate some food and then had the challenge? Had the Munchies, like the potato chip bag say? Put your hand up if you ever ate something and then it made you hungry again instead of satiating you. That's food for thought. Definitely happened to me before. I ain't above the people, right? No doubt. Number 6. Y'all got to type fast as my phone's slow. Number 6, relaxation. Relaxation, the biggest sign that you high is often a sense of total relaxation. All you want to do is chill, right? Sounds like Thanksgiving, right? Any other holiday where the food is involved, right? The repast, whatever. After you eat, you just want to chill. But remember, the scriptures say that blessed is the land where the princes eat for strength, right? But after that good meat and potatoes dinner, that ain't how you feel, right? So look, the bottom line, look for the unusual change. If you smoke or ingest marijuana, any other substance for that matter, you usually know you high based on changes that happen. Sometimes they subtle, but they happen subsequent to consumption, unless you aren't paying close attention. All right. Shout out to Sister Judea. I see you keeping it real out there. All right. Now, let's get back to the book. 1 Peter chapter 5. Let's see if I can find Peter. It took me a minute to get to Titus, but I'm here. Right. And the question again, the question of the day, you know, every episode I like to read a question. What determines whether the food you eating is classified as a drug? Right. As we go to 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 1. 1 Peter chapter 5 and 1. What determines whether the food you eating is classified as a drug? Right. Now, 1 Peter 5 and 1. It say, the elders which are among you I exhort, who am also an elder and a witness of the sufferings of Christ, and also get me today. Verse 2, feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, nor for filthy lucre, but ready mind, neither being as lords over God's heritage, but being examples to the flock. Right? So we being exhorted now to make sure we overseeing the flock of God properly. That's the purpose of this, right? Because you never heard no talk like this before, right? And again, for anybody that's new, the purpose here is to put out information and you make the judgment, right? Verse 6, it say, humble yourself, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that he might exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon him, for he cares for you. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. So we're talking about the devil. Think about what you know about the devil from the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve. He deceived the woman. Why? Through his subtlety, right? Subtlety, right? These things that we talking about, it doesn't seem like it's much, right? Because the Lord gave us food. He said everything was good, and we received it with such Thanksgiving, right? So it's all good. Meats for the belly and belly for the meats. But through subtlety, he got the woman. And, you know, the man can front like he wouldn't have got the man, but through his subtlety, he got the whole world. So I'm just saying, right? Being a sober mind is in self-control. That's what he just said, right? Allows us to stay mindful of the schemes of the enemy, right? The real adversary who's betting on you to fail, right? And I want to encourage you to see your food temptations for what they are. A ploy to make you ineffective. It doesn't mean that it's evil. It just means that if you take it the wrong way, if you go too far with it, if you don't exercise temperance, if you don't deny yourself, it's going to make you ineffective for Christ, right? Because how you going to feed the flock of God if you stopping over here right quick for the cancer burger, right? Look, I mean, I ain't write the Bible. Peter just told you be sober, right? You got to move the beam out your own eye before you get the pencil out the other eye, right? But locksmith, advertising is everywhere. Marketing is a multi-billion-dollar industry. People went to college, dedicated their life, just like how Moses and David dedicated their life to the word and to the Lord. As people went and dedicated their whole life to try to figure out how to make sure that you want this thing every time you see it, you talk about it, you think about it, you smell something. You wake up every Thursday afternoon, right? We just talked about Lay's, the Lay's commercial. You can go Google that on YouTube, right? They make a living off of trying to figure out how to make you addicted. And then, you know, you want to, not you, but you and them and they turn around and try to act like that they're not getting high off food. As if you don't know what I'm saying here, right? This is the main goal of their career, right? Regardless of the side effects, regardless of the overall health, if it lowers your sperm count, if it make you infertile, if it give your kids hypertension, right? Let's go back to the book of Proverbs. Boy, I'm preaching too much. Book of Proverbs, chapter 23. Peter says, stay sober. You got to recognize what food do to you. The sister say the MSG, and yeah, that's definitely the truth. The MSG is the truth, but it's so much more. All you look on the back of your label, all them words you can't read, you never heard of before, right? Chapter 23 and verse 1, right? Just going to give us some insight, right? Because I'm talking all that stuff about marketing. I mean, what you going to do? I mean, it's everywhere. Everybody got the food. I mean, what we going to do then? That's what everybody say to me, right? I'm sure that's what you may be saying right now. What I'm going to do then? Wisest man ever lived. He going to give us some help. He ain't going to tell you, hey, do this, do that. But he going to give us some help. Give us some help, Solomon. Chapter 23 and 1. Let's say, when you sit to eat with a ruler, consider diligently what's before thee. Because that's what we're talking about, right? What's sitting here before you. All them words you don't know how to pronounce. You never heard of before. They didn't teach you that in science or biology or chemistry or none of them. Maybe in chemistry. When you sit down to eat with a ruler, consider diligently what is before thee. Put a knife to your throat if thou be a man given to appetite. Verse 3, be not desirous of his dainties, for they are deceitful meat. Right? The ruler's table mess around and be your ruin. Right? You may be seduced by the atmosphere, right? Or the power of luxury, right? Or in this case, or in our case, the fast food table. Right? You're so seduced by the atmosphere of low cost and convenience that you surrender that thing that shouldn't be surrendered. Or you promise that thing that shouldn't be promised. Which in effect, you worship and serve that thing that should not be worshiped and served. Right? And so that's a jewel that he just gave us. Like, again, of course, he's not going to tell you, hey, look, eat that burger, don't eat that burger, eat the grass fed, eat it from Whole Foods, not from Jewels, not from. He ain't going to say that. He going to say, consider what you're doing. And if you giving over to this thing where you just don't care because they just going to kill us anyway, hey, put a knife to your throat. Right? Don't be desirous of his dainty meat, right? I once read his Bible commentary on this verse, right? I know we don't do Bible commentaries, but I'm just saying. It said, the warning is not to indulge yourself at an impressive feast, right? Because the ruler wants something from you, or he is observing you. And I'm with that. Because at McDonald's, at White Castle, it's the same thing. The CEO, he got a research team. Matter of fact, I'm going to pause right here. I'm going to read this article from the Chicago Tribune. If you just got here, we just got through reading Proverbs 23, 1 through 3. If you're serving this thing, you might want to put a knife to your throat, right? But look, check this out. It's called American Eating Habits Are Changing Faster Than Fast Food Can Keep Up. Chicago Tribune, go Google it, right? Claire Tinley, 32, Chicago nursing student, 2 young children, used to eat out with her husband a couple times a week, but cut back to every 2 weeks, right? Because they got kids, they paying for school, they ain't got no budget for the restaurant, right? McDonald's say fewer U.S. customers offset increasing numbers the rest of the world, resulting in a second quarter guest drop of 0.3%, right? 0.3% is talking about some real money though, right? Talking about a couple meal, right? Meal kits and delivery make it also harder to stay in, right? It's a grocery chains. They got these little meal kits to go options where they put the hummus and all the good stuff in there for like $3 or $4. And Kroger and Walmart just took over a couple of other businesses that were like good, wholesome food products, right? They say Chick-fil-A is selling chicken meal packages where customer can grab one at the drive-thru for $15.89 and make their own chicken parmesan or enchiladas in 30 minutes. Why are you reading this to me, Locks? Live on the Sabbath day? Because the scripture just told you, be careful when you're sitting with the prince. Man, who you think you sit with when you go in Chick-fil-A? Or when you stop going to Chick-fil-A? Or when you stop going to McDonald's? And then they come out with this new thing, and all of a sudden they got salad now. And all of a sudden they got parfait or something, that yogurt or some healthy thing now. Right? Because he's the prince. He's been watching you. He's been observing you. And you won't put a knife to your throat because you keep saying God said he made everything good. As long as it's clean, I can eat chicken fingers all day. Let's go back to the Proverbs. For everybody that just came in, appreciate that, big brother Tom. I'm going to read it again. 23:1. They say, when you sit with the ruler, consider diligently what is before you, and put a knife to your throat. If you be a man given an appetite, be not desirous of his dainties, they are deceitful meat. Right? Verse 6. Eat thou not the bread of him that have an evil eye, neither desire thou his dainty meats. Everywhere I read about this person with an evil eye, it's referring to a stingy man. A stingy man. Right? And you would think the people of God, like, the most no. You would think Americans who are now people of God, they would understand this stingy talk. Right? Let's see what's up here. They would understand this stingy talk. Right? This stingy talk is America. Marketing, this is America. It is. You know who are amongst the stingiest people in the 21st century? Corporations. Corporations. Corporations been the stingiest entities in the United States since the 1970s, and that's before the locksmith time. In 2018, CNBC published a story. You can go Google it too, and I ain't gonna read a whole bunch to you. It just say that the average pay of the typical American worker, $58,000. The typical pay average CEO is 271 times $58,000, averaging 15.6 million. Right? Because we talking about stingy, right? Because this is the Bible we read, because this is the Sabbath day. Don't get it twisted. This is the Sabbath day. We reading the Bible here. The Bible said, don't eat with the evil eye. The evil eye. All right, the CEOs are stingy. They keep profits, monitoring your eating habits, right? All the cell phone apps you get, the new app here and the new app there, that's what that is. So they can monitor you because you won't put a knife to your throat, right? And I ain't going to tell you how to do that for your life. I'm just telling you the Bible say consider what's set before you, right? All your reward cards, all that. That's all they're using it for. If you didn't know that, go Google that, right? Verse 7. Verse 7 say, for as he think in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, saith he to thee, but his heart is not with thee. All right? Come on now, y'all Americans. Come on now. Come on, man. Ain't that what they tell us? Have it your way. All right? I'm loving it. All right? Think outside the bun. Eat fresh. All right? Gather around the good stuff. Yeah, y'all know what I'm talking about. All the major slogans that we heard before, that's how they lullaby us to sleep, saying eat and drink. But their heart is not with us. As a matter of fact, their heart is far from us. All right? Eat and drink, say he to thee, but his heart is not with thee. And we go to the restaurant a time. It ain't over. Verse 8. the morsel which thou hast eaten, the morsel which thou hast eaten shalt thou vomit up and lose thy sweet words. Boy, the Bible ain't never lied, y'all. I'm telling you. Plenty cancer, plenty diabetic, plenty hypertension, plenty dialysis patients. They done vomited up enough that those sweet slogans that I just quoted a few minutes ago, they lost to them. Yeah, I feel you, Locksmith, but my food is food, not drugs. All right, okay. Before I read this last scripture, I just got one scripture left. Before I read this last one, I want to read y'all the answer to this week's question, right? The question was, one more time, make sure you share this with your friends, share this with your family, share this with the healthy people you know, share this with the unhealthy people you know, share this with the people that, you know what I'm saying, throwing up because they can't do whatever, share it. Because God shares. So if you want to be like God, you want to be like Christ, share something. Now, the question is, what determines whether the food you are eating is classified as a drug? Boom. For a substance to be controlled or illegal, the Drug Enforcement Administration considers certain factors, include impact, pattern of use, and potency of the drug, right? So in evaluating existing abuse, the DEA administrator must know not only the pattern of abuse, but whether the abuse is widespread, right? So if it's just a couple of 100 or even 1,000 people that's falling over here in Flint, Michigan, over here on the east side of Chicago, and then boom in Philly, you know, that ain't really widespread. All right, I'm just making up something, you know. Y'all know what I'm saying, though. In reaching a decision, the administrator considers the economics of regulation and enforcement attendant to such a decision, right? Because you got to consider economics. This is America. This is capitalism, baby. Got to consider the economics, right? Eat and drink, say he to thee, but his heart, it's not with you, right? So now, real quick, first thing is nutmeg, right? You might know about this if you're a cook, but the ignorant food people like me just found out about it. Nutmeg, get you high. Because the side effects are so wretched, right? And it's hard to, you had to ingest so much of it to get high. The doctors and, you know what I'm saying, the FDA, EPA, whatever, they ain't tripping. But this is answering the question. How do you know if your food has drugs in it? Right? This is the second answer to the question, matter of fact. Right? December 9th, 2010, ABC News in Miami, Florida, Poison Control Center, Jackson Memorial Hospital recently saw a small spike in phone calls reporting people who snorted, smoked, or ate nutmeg. A sprinkling of nutmeg is good in the eggnog, right? But the natural compound got mind-altering effects. If ingested in large doses, the buzz can last 1 or 2 days and can be hallucinogenic like LSD. Like LSD. I know y'all seen the Facebook post I put up about sugar being as bad as cocaine. This thing said LSD. Y'all know in the Malcolm X movie, they gave Malcolm X nutmeg right before they preached the Islam to him, right? Because he was a cokehead, so they had to get him high so he could listen, right? Again, same thing with food. You got to eat something so you could focus, right? One more, chili peppers. It say chili peppers don't get you high depending on your definition, right? And that's why we read through the definition of symptoms that get you high and compared it to food. So if you just got here and you missed that, make sure you rewind that back about how to know when someone's high and how to know if food gets you high, right? But chili peppers, they numb the pain. Again, some of you foodies, y'all knew that already, right? Ignorant to the facts. Let me put you on, right? People like me. In addition to killing cancer, Caspasian has the ability to dull pain. When it hit the tongue, the spice activates the pain receptors that fire up the burning sensation. You be like, ooh, it's hot. But after a while, that same process depletes the body of substance P. All you biology majors, it's a chemical involved in the perception of pain. The message, ouch, it stops getting through to your brain and your discomfort fades. Just like what? Drugs. All right. If you didn't know, Caspasian is available in over-the-counter creams for arthritis. All right. And they be talking about they could revolutionize the anesthesiology, you know what I mean, and your trips to the dentist, right? One more. In 2007, researchers at Harvard announced that they had used Caspasian, these same peppers, to numb rats without rendering them immobile. Right? They ejected the rats, and then with a local anesthetic, and the Caspasian flowed through the pain receptors pathways. The anesthetic followed in his footsteps and deadened the discomfort, and the rats were still running around them. Right? What this mean, Locksmith? This mean painkillers from food. It's already happening. Painkillers is drugs. Turn the heck up. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, man. Let me get on out of here, man. This is my last one, man. I appreciate y'all coming through. Please share something. Because, Israel scared of the facts. They scared because I read it out the Bible. But it's here. You can lay it down if you want to. It's going to be here till you come back and pick it up, baby. 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 22. Yeah, that Proverbs 23 was hard. Make sure you go rewind that back. That Proverbs 23. Woo! 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 22. Yeah, we almost out of here. To the weak I became as weak, that I might gain the weak. I am made all things to all men, that I might by all means save some. Right? And this I do for the gospel's sake, that I might be partaker thereof with you. Know ye not that they which run a race run all, but one receive the prize. So run that you may obtain. Yeah, this self-control thing is real. We all running this race. So run that you might obtain, this self-control thing. And every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. Temperate in how many things? All things. So if you're striving for mastery in this race, you run it so that you may obtain a prize. You need to be temperate in food consumption as well. Why? Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible crown. I therefore so run, not as uncertainty, so fight I, not as one that beat the air. Right? It's not easy. I know it ain't easy. Things just told you might have to put a knife to your neck. Or maybe you could, ask the Lord to put your mind in tune with his mind. And then maybe, it could work like that. You could just have a shift change. All right? Because that's what happened to me. After beating my head against the wall, I just had a shift change. The Lord decided to go ahead and grant my prayer. All right? Paul calls it a fight. But what's Paul reserved to do, right? Wait, a matter of fact, no. Verse 25 again. He just called it a fight. 26, He said, I therefore so run, not as uncertainly, so fight I. It's a fight. Unless you Mike Tyson in a fight, you supposed to get hit too. Dead in your snot locker. But what Paul reserved to do and why? Verse 27. But I keep under my body and bring it into subjection, lest that by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. All right. So what you saying, Locksmith? You saying I shouldn't eat Wendy's no more? You saying I shouldn't eat my 4 for 4 no more? No, I ain't saying that. We drink wine. It's the same thing. What I'm saying is, how often do you drink wine? How often you drink strong drink? Do you drink it every day, 3 times a day, twice a day? You give it to your kids to treat 3 times a day, twice a day, on the weekends, every day, all day on the weekend? I say that the scriptures say, be careful when you sit with the princes because they watching you. And if you can't help it, you so busy serving your stomach, you need to put a knife to your neck. Right? What do that mean? That means the same thing Jesus meant when he said, cut your arm off if it offends you, and take your eye out if it offends you. It means get right with God so he can change your mind. And if you don't want to, then yeah, go ahead and put the knife to your throat, for real, right? In conclusion, we learn that temperance can refer to food. We also came to the conclusion that food can be just as bad, if not worse, than illicit drugs, and that we should take the advice of the apostles and put forth real efforts to stay sober in that regard as well. Stay sober from that stuff that slow you down. Because when it's time to flee, how you gonna get away, right? I eat fast food, again, about as often as I drink. And probably a little less often than that. Now, shout out to my wife, right? And the majority of my drinking might gonna happen on the weekend too, just for the record, right? And the seventh day, you know what I mean? So that means that's 1 out of 7, really. You know, unless you count the evening, Saturday night. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with my mozzarella sticks from White Castle and my double fish sandwich from Checkers, because Locksmith was guilty too. I told y'all I'm teaching myself. I told you that. This is me talking to Locksmith, and it just so happened you get to hear it too. Turn up. Praise the Lord. Right, but again, why do we even want self-control? After all, it's not easy to be disciplined. Remember, Titus reminded us the grace of God motivates us to change. Don't try to give yourself new discipline. Ask God to put your mind in tune with his. Because he the one told you. He the one gave you the hint that the food was bad. Put your mind in tune with his. Just because it's bad doesn't mean you have to eat it all. Right? And that's it. Food and the people of God. Season 1, episode 5 done. It's going to happen again in 7 days at the beginning of the Sabbath, 7:46 p.m. approximately. Live and direct, Locksmith, because knowledge is the key. Study the Bible, not the sermon, is the label that pays, man. And yeah, show me some love in the comments, what you think about this, and what's your judgment on all this, right? Because this is sharing. Sharing is caring. So make sure you share. And I'm out.